What's up, guys? Welcome back to the GGBL. Just wanted to give you an update here with trade day. As you guys know, I allow you, the community, to vote on the trades that you think should go through or if they should be blocked, basically vetoed. So I linked this Google form inside of our community tab, our Discord, and on the last video that I posted for the GGBL. And again, basically, I came up with all of the trade propositions, like this one here. Wisconsin gets a second baseman, Scotty Finnegan from Colorado, for Chris Perez and Guadalupe Vargas. I also included a video link. You can't see it here because I'm actually in the editor's mode. But if I did a preview here, you would see that this is actually a YouTube video that is unlisted. So you could click on this and you could see like what kind of my rationale was about this offer. Like, why would Colorado need a second baseman and why would this benefit Wisconsin by acquiring Chris Perez and Guadalupe Vargas? So basically, you guys voted yes or no on some of these trades. You even had an opportunity to make your own trade, basically. We did have some players up on the board here to be offered for Jose Franco, which would be a pitcher from Michigan. And which team do you think that he should go to? You said the Breeze or the Cardinals, and basically kind of made your own trade off of that. Now, as far as the results go, I want to be transparent here. You needed 60% or more yeses in order for a trade to pass. So if you had 59% yes, the trade would not pass. But I'm happy to report that every trade that was proposed passed, most with flying colors, but there were some that had kind of an even split. Not 50-50, but you guys know what I mean here. So there was a little contentious sentiment that was going on. But 83% here for Scotty Finnegan going to Colorado for Chris Perez and Guadalupe Vargas. So that trade example that I just mentioned, that one passed with flying colors. 83% said yes on that one. 80% for the pizzazz to get Cameron Moyer for Fernando Guerra and Christopher Espinoza. I feel like that was a good trade for both teams. You know, they're getting rid of a top hitting catcher and they're getting some nice prospects back there in Atlanta. This one was a little tough for both yeses and nos. 21 yes, 10 nos. Phoenix gets Owen McCallum as a good hitting first baseman, a potential player for an aging veteran catcher. But I feel like Iowa is getting a good player to win now, and McCallum just was blocked, so he wasn't really able to play. There was just nowhere to even to call him up from AAA. There just really wasn't anywhere for him to go. Now, for this one, for that example, like, you could choose the team, like, you could make your own trade, basically. You guys chose Chicago, so you thought that Jose Franco was a really good fit for Chicago, even though it was pretty split here, 58-41, 18-13. I think if we had more votes than 31, this might have started evening out just a little bit more. But Chicago will win the trade. And then I asked you guys, of the Chicago trade offer or the Columbus trade offer for Jose Franco, which trade offer did you like the best? This one, maybe I needed to reword this because a lot of people must have misunderstood because they started talking about Wisconsin Maples. Like, that wasn't even an option. Or they're all good. Like, I was asking you guys, if you picked Chicago, which trade of Chicago's did you like the most? If you picked Columbus, which trade did you like of Columbus's in order to go grab Jose Franco? So I used the trade finder in that example. I think there was just a lot of confusion on how I wrote that. Next up, Michigan receiving a pitcher from Kansas City and a top 50 prospect in Todd Galvin for Lamont St. Aud. So 80% there. That was a really good one. Now this one for Minnesota and Seattle, 67%. Again, kind of a split vote here, 21-10. Getting Kieran Kent, Bobby, probably, I said Petite, but it's probably Pettit, and Marco Mota from Seattle for Javier Calzado and Micah King. So two veteran pieces there for a playoff run for Seattle, and Minnesota gets back a decent haul of prospects. This one started off, I was watching this one very intently, guys. My Richmond good boys here. Getting Vic Flutie. Mallards are going to get two pitching prospects from Richmond, and this one started off a little low. You know, there was a lot more no's than there were yeses, so it was not at 60%. But then it turned the corner here and got to 80% yes, so that one passed pretty well. Philly gets Mitch Toney for Joel Cardona, a prospect at second base. This one's 74% to 25. Next, we had Curtis Brendel from San Antonio for Jose Alfonso. It's a little one-for-one type deal. 77%, that passed. And then I asked you guys, I showed you the trade between St. Louis and San Francisco, but I mixed these up. Which Maroons first baseman should be traded to San Fran? It should actually be which San Francisco first baseman should be traded to St. Louis. So these are two San Francisco first basemen right here. Which guy should be traded to St. Louis? St. Louis is trying to make a push, and they needed an extra first baseman. So it was kind of a depth for depth type of trade. So we had an outfielder for St. St. that could have offered some depth for San Francisco, and San Francisco had some depth at first base that they wanted to go get to St. Louis. So you guys chose Ray Amoros. Looked like he had a lot more power than Preston Reese, so it's kind of a split decision here, man. 16 to 15, only one vote separated it. Pretty crazy. Had we not had that one vote, that 31 right there, if that was 30, we might have been tied right there. But yeah, so that's trade day. I'm going to go into the actual trades at this point and show you guys kind of what each team looks like now that there's been some movement and actually some call-ups too, because now that there's been some shake-ups across the organizations, the teams, the franchises, then we're going to look and see like what happened post-trade and get kind of a better look at their lineups and their pitching rotations. Who did they call up? What's kind of their identity now that they've made these moves? All right, guys, let's talk about the effects of all of the trades that went down. So we can see real quick the Pizzazz, they're slotting Cameron Moyer here in the number 5 slot against right-handers. And then against left-handers, he's also going to be in the 5 slot as well. They've also called up Luther Beavers, who actually was a pretty good player down in the minor league system. So I wish I could show you his minor league numbers, but that'd be a long video at this point. So I figured he deserves to call up. He's got 88 vision. He's a second baseman, can play right between DeMarcus King and I don't think they have another second baseman here, but Dudley McNeil also can play short and second. So they do load up on the infield depth here for their postseason push. So as you guys know, Michigan made a ton of moves, getting rid of some of their pitching, acquiring some young pitching back, and they ended up calling up quite a bit of prospects here. So Felipe Tavares, he is a primary first baseman, but because Dalton Jett is blocking him there's really no point in swapping those guys out. So Tavares with 91 contact and 79 contact against lefties, I feel like he's going to be a really good player for them. Probably should have been called up a long time ago, but there's no better time than now, right? But they did acquire Todd Galvin, this shortstop over here from Kansas City. He's a top 50 prospect, but he's not as good as Felipe Tavares. So these guys are going to have to split some time. Probably have to appease both of them. That's not a side joke here from Porter Pease from Texas. But yeah, so 80 contact against lefties, 79 contact against righties. They're pretty much the same player if you look at them. Look at the power numbers against lefties for both these guys. 46, 44. The vision, 65, 66. The fielding, right? Kind of the same thing here, but Todd Galvin can also play first base. So I guess you could say, in a way, that both of these guys are trying to try out for the designated hitter spot. They'll probably have a lengthy look here from July onward to the end of the season. Plus, in spring training next season, I'm almost guaranteeing that. Now, they'll also call up a player here, Carmine Carrillo. Doesn't look like a Carmine, but most Carmines are Hispanic. So I don't know what's going on here, but this guy from South Carolina, Carmine Carrillo, interesting. But an outfielder here, hit pretty well. A lot of stolen bases down at the AAA, AA level here, but nothing really else to report on for Michigan as far as the lineup goes. Now for Iowa, they acquired Adam Perez, and they're going to slot him in the 6th hole against left-handers and the 5th hole against right-handers. They also sent down one of their other catchers to make room for Adam Perez. Since he's an 81, they're probably not going to be playing any of those guys. Todd Gray's going to see his at-bats kind of get cut down just a little bit. And that made room for this player here, Chet Frazier, a third baseman, kind of giving some depth right behind Jose Andino. I don't know if Andino is going to really give up that job very easily, but they look to be kind of a similar player, although Andino has a little bit better vision and Chet Frazier has a little bit more speed. But both guys can hit against left-handers. Should be an interesting kind of platoon situation, if you will. There's a Carmine for you guys right there. Carmine Feliz. That fits a little bit more nicely, honestly. Now, looking at the Wisconsin Maples, I always get confused with the M. I probably should change this eventually here to like a W, a curly W. But that M confuses me. Minnesota is what I want to say, but it's Wisconsin. Wisconsin Maples. Avante Duckworth shifting from second base to designated hitter. I think this is the right move for this team. This is why they went out and got Scotty Finnegan from Colorado. This man has 17 errors at second base. Like, you just can't do that. Finnegan, on the other hand, not going to bring the offense, but he's going to bring the defense there at second base right now. You can see the number of errors that he has committed is 8. So just under half of what Duckworth has given them on defense. But all things considered, looks like a good trade for Wisconsin and Colorado. Now, San Diego went out and they acquired a third baseman by the name of Jose Alfonso. He's only had 4 at-bats, and as you know, Miami was looking to move on from this guy. They have a lot of depth at third base and just trying to find a way to acquire some more pitching on their end. So San Antonio, they have a abundance of pitching, and they were able to acquire some depth here on defense. So Alfonso probably going to play more in the outfield. If I can change his throwing from left-handed to right-handed, I don't know how realistic that would be. Maybe he's ambidextrous, but at that point, then I can make him play third base. Otherwise, he's going to get replaced in games, in sim, by the CPU, because you can't have a left-handed third baseman. The rules are. But yeah, I don't know how much he's going to play over Brian Ernesto against the left-handers, but he should play because of that vision and that power. He should get some playing time. Not going to be the starter per se. Ernesto's definitely the guy, but pretty cool dynamic here just to see how that all works out. Now, one thing I did notice here is that this guy, Matt Campos, a 73 overall, top 50 prospect. He probably is one of the highest top 50 prospect, probably I would say maybe top 10, and he was just kind of withering away down there in AAA, hitting really good, and 91 contact, 83 vision. He had to get called up, definitely, 100%. DeAndre Nichols having a good season, really good season, 266, 12 homers, but at age 21 with a C potential, how much is that going to progress him in the future, right? Meanwhile, you have Campos here at 73A at 20 years old, right? So it seems like he's the future, and I think San Antonio, in the middle of a playoff race, right, they probably want to see what this kid's got. Now, for Colorado, they acquired this guy, Guadalupe Vargas, to play first base. Very good defender. When you look at Paxton Burnside, good defender as well, but they needed some help there at first base, depth. Paxton Burnside can still play some first base, but I think that this move helped them kind of extend the lineup out just a little bit, because the other outfielders, really when you're comparing Vargas to Matt Tate, it's like, who are you going to play for offense? Like, you look at Tate's numbers, he's hitting 215 in right field. Vargas can hit a little bit at first base, but you can't play him over Burnside at first. You know what I'm saying here? So Paxton moving out to the outfield, makes some sense here. So he's actually a left field first base, so we're going to just swap that out. I think Novoa can play right. Yeah, he can play right. So we're going to actually swap this here, Burnside and left. There you go. So Vargas at first. Adams is now moved to second base because they just drafted Neptune St. Clair, one of our top prospects. So they're kind of they're testing Josh Adams at second base. His secondary position used to be second, used to be primary third, but I went in and edited him up and swapped him out. So they're moving him over to second, knowing full well that the guy they just drafted is probably going to take over Dallas Young's job. We'll see how that all plays out because Neptune's a 75A, Dallas Young is a 74C. So we'll see how that all plays out. But I think this is a good move for Colorado, kind of a tit for tat deal. But I think overall it's gonna pay off. I think Burnside playing a different position, probably getting more involved. Yes, every out is played at first base, but I think getting him more athletic, getting him more involved out in the outfield probably will help him with less things to think about. He's got to worry about his hitting. 258, 331, could be a lot better. I expect more actually from a guy like Paxton Burnside. Now for Phoenix, they acquire Owen McCallum, a 76A potential first baseman at 27 years old. That's a big thing to note there. At 27, you basically got 3 or 4 more seasons with that A potential to have really good years. Once you go past that 30-year-old marker, that 31-year-old marker, it seems like the show starts to regress you just a little bit. After 35, it's going to hit major regression, right? But I think this is a really good addition for them. Plus, they can make room now because they got rid of Adam Perez. They can make room now for Gustavo Pena, who has yet to play at the GGBL level, but at 24, 72, a left-handed bat, provides a little offense for him. Plus, they've got Samuel Yates now as the backup. So I think this is good for both squads there. So for Atlanta, moving on from Cameron Moyer, they now have the opportunity to play Samuel Woodson a little bit more. 72A potential player here. So that's good for them. Plus, they're now putting in Christopher Espinoza, who they acquired from the Pizzazz. He's not going to take over anybody like Madsen right now. He's not going to take over Chris Rosario or probably Eugene Choi. He probably could compete with Choi here for that job, which I think he might do. But we'll let the CPU kind of handle Chris Espinoza. I don't want to kind of force him over Choi if his numbers are, 49, 54, 40. I want to be careful with him because he's got that A potential. If you start putting him into situations he's not ready for and his numbers start to lack and regress, that regression could happen if he starts hitting like 210. All right, so the Richmond Good Boys. What do we got going on here? So Vic Flutie is now our number 3 hitter. That's crazy. Just how things have totally changed just due to that trade. Crazy, crazy, crazy. So Gus Staples, he's one of our third basemen. Flutie's going to take over that job now because defensively he's just a lot better than Staples or whoever else we had at third base. I don't even see him on the roster anymore. I think we moved him down. But yeah, Staples just not a defender. He's a primary DH guy. So I'm happy that we got Vic Flutie out here to play third. He's got some good vision, good contact. I think that's going to play well and really help out this offense because our pitching staff's pretty good. We don't have a lot of holes in our pitching, but I think the problem with us is, we do play some good defense just looking at everybody here. Wilson, Addison, Altman, Marmolejo's decent out there in the outfield. Gonzalez got a good arm. So all we needed was just another hitter, and I think we're going to get that with Flutie, and I think our team's just in a better position now because of that trade. So the Kansas City Monarchs made a couple trades here, and they made some shifts inside of their outfield as well because they had some major leaguers, I keep saying that, but some GGBLers to move on from in the outfield. So they actually brought up Tino Fuentes, which is an all-star in the minor league system. Look at his arm, got some really good defense, really good speed, and his contact numbers are pretty good as well. So he's an 18-year-old kid out of the Dominican Republic at a 68C. They're hoping for some big things here. He's got some really good size, 6'4", 226. He could be a really, really good player for them. Probably going to play in some spot start situations. I would honestly consider playing him over Darius Hurst, currently hitting 217, but he's 26. He's a veteran with a B potential. You don't want to give up on him quite yet, but I would almost lean a little bit more towards Fuentes, even with the C potential. Looks like he's just got some better, maybe not. I was going to say he's got some better hot and cold zones there, but yeah, I think that they might have to start considering Fuentes if it were me. Now for the Nashville Heat, they found a way to call up Pete Cabral, a 30-year-old minor league, like a career minor league guy. He's got some good power numbers and some really good hot and cold zones, man. So in gameplay, he probably will do pretty good. So they didn't make a trade during trade day, but they found a way to call this guy up, and I think it makes sense for them because it looks like they need a little bit more power on their team, especially off their bench. Like, you got Pedroza here who plays a lot, Byler plays a lot, Stevens plays a lot, so there's a lot of opportunity there, right? So Stevens, Byler, Pedroza, they get in. Everybody kind of splits time on this roster, but Cabral with that power, 75 and 70. He had like 20 home runs in the minor leagues at this stage. So mid-season 20 home run hitter down in the minors. If your team is looking for some more power where they can find it, I think that that's a good move for them. So no trades for Nashville, but they made a good move by getting him called up here. So Houston also did not make a trade, and they didn't call anybody up either. So they're pretty happy with how things are going out in Houston as far as their offense goes. New Orleans, what do we got going on here? Russell France, a left fielder. He is a 25-73 potential player. That 99 durability, he's going to stick around for a while. Now, he actually had some good contact numbers, good power, nice little balanced player. So I figured he was a perfect call-up for them because he could progress nicely if he gets some nice playing time. And, you know, against Raul Magana, is he going to play a lot? Probably not. He's an A potential, but maybe Luther Fletcher might give up some of that time. He's a 71C. You've got France here at a 73B. So if anything, I might even just consider just swapping these guys out right now and just giving up on Luther Fletcher at this point. Good defense, good defender, decent contact numbers, but I kind of like France's potential. So for St. Louis, they went out and they acquired Ray Amoros for Cecil Whaley, one of their outfielders that they gave up to San Francisco. So he's going to play a little bit, 85 contact, 64 contact, lefties and righties. But, you know, he's going to have to find time to split with Tyson Cobb or possibly Harvey Hamel there at DH. He can play a little bit of outfield as well, so left field specifically, Alvaro Lopez. He is currently hitting .231 with a .291 OBP, so not very good. I would almost consider Ray Amoros to play a little bit more, and he is. So he is playing against lefties. So the CPU is going to do him right. I think it's a good addition for St. Louis. Now for Seattle. So they went out and they acquired Micah Kang and... where is he here? Micah Kang and Javier Calzado. That's who it was. So Calzado looks like he's playing against lefties, a nice DH guy. That contact against righties will play, that 54, but that power against lefties is really what you're getting from him, and that 68 contact. So this is a good addition to extend that lineup out for Seattle. Plus Micah Kang, just again, kind of that veteran defender. So he's not going to give you much on offense, but defensively, very good player that you can bring in a late game situation where you need that double play. You're going to try to force pitch the batter to go hit it to him. Yeah, very good defender right there. Now for pitching staff, I'm not going to go over too much of this because I did call up some guys that were starters down in the minor leagues. Called down some guys that were really struggling, and those starters in the minors that were really good, they're probably gonna be thrown in here into the bullpen just for now because it's kind of how I like to personally manage my pitching in my organization. If I got a guy with some high potential but a kind of a lower overall, he pitched good in the minor leagues. So you don't want to throw him up against a bunch of 90s and 88s, right? So you want to take care of him, throw him in the bullpen a little bit, use him in some high leverage situations, and just minimize the risk. And I think it's a good move. But I'll cover those guys very briefly here. But Bill Donnellan pitched well in the minor leagues. He's a setup pitcher. He's actually a closing pitcher, but he's going to be a setup guy here for New York. It actually extends the back end of the bullpen out a little bit. So you've got two setup guys, Fontenot, Donnellan, and then the closer, Fishman, who has been really good. He has 0 blown saves. He's been perfect. 31 saves, 31 chances. Now, because Michigan moved on from one of their better starters, Jose Franco, they did call up Bronson Finn, who's got a really, really good break, and walks per 9. 85 in walks per 9. Crazy. Also, Xavier Carver, really good with break, and walks per 9. Plus, he's got 84 stamina, so he can be used in that long relief spot. And you can even kind of swap these guys out, Finn and Carver, if you feel the need to do that. But Dustin Fiorentino was one of the guys that were acquired from Chicago. Needs a change of scenery. Michigan was glad to do it. He's 23C. Easily could work on some things there. And that's it for Michigan. Now for Chicago, Jose Franco moves into the 4 slot. And I think this really helps them because you got Smith, Escalona, Chacin, and then Villasmiel and Franco. So now their pitching staff looks a lot more solid, even though Villasmiel has really struggled. He's 1-10. I think this is, even though he's on a little hot streak right now, but I think this is exactly why you needed to go get a guy like Franco, because now you've moved on from your fourth starter, which was Villasmiel. He moves down to the 5 slot, and if he doesn't perform there, you could get Peter Aubrey into that role. You know, he's 5 points lower in the overall rating. He was pitching very good down in the AAA system. He's got that 99 velo, hitting 97, got a 90-mile-an-hour slider with some movement, right? With some break. He's got 84 break on his pitches. He's nasty. That cutter and changeup too. Cutter at 97. So if anything, if Villasmiel starts struggling a little bit more, then Aubrey's got to be the guy that they consider here. No other movement there other than Woody Getz. He is an A potential closer, and he's hitting 94 on his 4-seam fastball. He's pretty nasty too, and now, you know, Chris Pena's on watch as well. He could end up moving to the setup role if he can't figure this out. He's got 2 blown saves, 28 saves in total, but his ERA is just not very good, and the whip to boot. Now for Columbus, they did miss out on the Jose Franco sweepstakes, but they did get Ray Zildasic. I think that's how you say the name. Ray Zildasic. Zildasic. There you go. I got it. But pitched really well down in the minors. One of the better prospects that I was able to call up for some of these teams. Really good ERA. That walks per 9. Very high at 81. Plus he can pitch. He's a starter. But he's going to be in that long relief spot for right now. Bobby Drake, you're on notice. Darren Woods, you're on notice at 4-10. So Colorado, after their lone trade, acquiring Chris Perez and Guadalupe Vargas, they're looking at that number 5 hole in their rotation, and they're kind of having this being a rotating number 5 spot. Number 1 through 4 seems like it's a pretty solid group there. You got Michaels, Burgos, Bromberg, and Cabral. Burgos with 1-10, by the way. Bromberg 6-6, 9-8 for Cabral, 6-8 for Michaels. So the team is in a tough spot. So they're looking at that number 5 slot as a kind of a rotation spot where they're going to have a tryout. They've got Carmona here with 80 stamina, 71 K per 9, can hit 96 on his fastball. Looks like he's pretty good. Left-handed pitcher too. You've got Clausen here who's a lefty. You got Perez who's a lefty. And then you got Wanyang Chang, who actually got called up from the minors as well, who's 28, little veteran ad, but he has not pitched yet at the GGBL level. So they've got 3 guys now, 4 guys actually, who they're going to try out here for that number 5 spot. And if it doesn't work out for some of these dudes, maybe they start seeing like they're better in a relief role, right? And then, I mean, at this point, their bullpen looks really good. They're all 70s and above. Can't say that for a lot of GGBL squads. So Colorado really kind of heavily leaning more into their pitching staff, and I think this is going to work out for them actually. Phoenix is going to call up this guy, Caleb Matson. I'm going to change that glove, by the way. I see a lot of that with these created players, but Caleb Matson, 96, 95, left-hander. He's got a sweeping curve, a slow one, and that changeup's pretty slow too when you're coming from a 96 and 95 cutter and 4-seam, but that A potential going to do Phoenix pretty well, and no other call-ups to speak about, but yeah, I'm interested to see how this guy does. Now for Atlanta, they do have Fernando Guerra, guy that they just acquired from New York. He's going to be in the bullpen for now, and then we got Luis Leon, who pitched really well down in the minors too. When I say that, guys, I'm saying that often, but like seriously, like I wouldn't call these dudes up if they didn't have good numbers. As a 76, he could easily start competing with David Klein or even Trig Matthews. But even with Trig, you've got 123 strikeouts and 42 walks. So he's not pitched very badly. With that A potential, maybe I take that back a little bit. But Rivera's got a B, Myhill's got a B, Roberson a B. So Klein probably the one guy that would be in competition for that 5 spot. But with that C potential, Luis Leon a C, Guerra with a B potential. So if he starts pitching really well in that long relief role, then maybe, possibly. There's Curtis Brendel, who's acquired from San Antonio. Nothing else to speak about for the Miami Moonshots, but Brendel, I like Brendel. I think he's going to be pretty good. 96, 4-seamer. He's also got a running fastball, a sweeping curve, and a slider, so he can kind of... So really, his 4-seam can work along with the running fastball. They're kind of the same, but they move differently. And then the slider with the sweeping curve, that's going to be tough for hitters to pick up too. So he's got some pretty good pitches. I don't know how that's going to work out as a starter though. I don't know. I think you need 5. I think you need 5 pitches. He's got 4. They're kind of similar, but they move a little bit differently. I don't know. He's got the C potential. I think he's going to be decent. Probably maxed out at a 4 or a 5. Now for the good boys, what do we got? Our pitching staff is really good. Remember what I told you guys? The pitching staff is awesome. I love it. The 4.6s and 4.4s are a little high, but as far as GGBL standards go, it's not too bad. Saul Taylor, we're going to call up. This guy had like a 2 ERA in our AAA system. I'm like, you got to come up. You got to help us out here in our long relief role. He's a 73. And you guys remember what I said about one of our pitching staffs? I think it was... Atlanta, no, not Atlanta. It was Colorado. There you go. So all these 70s here. If you look at Richmond and you look at the other bullpens across the NL here, just kind of scrolling through, they've got a really good bullpen. They got a really good pitching staff. You know, Taylor's a 73. You got a couple 69s here, but they're still pitching well in the bullpen for the good boys. I think if you just want to go back to that, I think Colorado's going to be set up pretty nicely with their staff in the future. Interesting move here for the Carolina Blue Sox. They had a struggling pitcher that they called down, and Eugene Delory, pitching pretty good down in the minors. Didn't have a lot of strikeouts, but not a lot of walks either. You can see the 86 walks per 9, 73 velo. Not going to be super fast coming at hitters, but that movement at 53, control at 52. I don't know if this is going to work out for Carolina, but minor league wise, pitched pretty good. They didn't really have another option. You got to move the other guy down. Delory is probably the guy at number 5. If anything, you could probably put Len Strawberry down there or Johnny Savage to kind of give you some innings there at the number 5. But yeah, they were really struggling with that number 5 spot, and they've got some pitching to give up, right? I mean, look at Nettles, Chavez, Fernandez, Ben Olivo's an 80. So they're not really hurting, okay? They're not hurting. Eugene Delory, give you some innings. Let that offense go to work. Hopefully he has a couple games where he pitches well. One name you're probably going to see a lot more of is Johnny Wilson, 89 velo, and he's got the 5 pitches that I look for in a starter. Got a 2-seamer, a curve, change, slider, 4-seam, pretty standard mix. But from Venezuela at 6'5", 190, kind of a lanky guy. Good velo, good stamina, good walk per 9, good break, decent control. I think he's going to be money for Nashville. As a number 5 guy, I think he's going to be good. Plus, they did call up this guy, Christian Foss, a 77 K per 9 and 69 walks per 9. Velo hitting 78 as well. That 4-seam change, curve, slider, again, pretty standard mix. But so Nashville's looking to revamp some of their bullpen, some of their starting rotation mix. So for Houston, they called up Wallace Nalat, a 75A potential closer. Of course, closers are always really highly rated and have good potentials, but they need extra bullpen help. I don't see how that hurts them by adding another arm like this. Had a lot of strikeouts down at the AAA level. New Orleans had some situations here with their pitching, man. Oren Drummond, 84 innings with an 8.8. Seidel, 84 innings with an 8, with a 1.9 whip. Basically, he's Alek Manoah numbers at this point, guys. So their bullpen does not look very good right now. Vinny Stroud struggling 6'5", Barreto 5'2". It hasn't been good. It's been bad. These guys are starters. So instead of continuing to beat the drum, that's actually funny, and operate with a guy that's not operating like Cy Young, you needed to call up some dudes. So Bo Pena will get the call up here. He's a 74 overall pitcher. He's better than Drummond and Seidel, so why not give him a shot? And Matt Mendoza is also better than Dell and Drummond. So again, why not give these guys a shot? Good walks per 9 totals. You can see the difference here, right? 48 for Seidel walks per 9, 41 for Drummond walks per 9. So I would anticipate Pena and Mendoza to be performing at a lot higher of a level than these two guys. These two guys, they might be on their way out, man. 23C, 23C, seeing some regression as well. Yeah, they might lose a job. And for Washington, they're going to call up another starter here, Hector Muriel. And the reason for this is Monty Bucks kind of struggled at a 5'3" and 1.5. Again, that walks per 9 at 47. The show loves walks per 9. I'm anticipating Hector Muriel to do a little bit better. Although the break at a 63, he's the same as Monty Buck. A little bit less control, less velo, more stamina, less K per 9. This might not work out for them, but it's better. Like, the unknown is better than the known, I think, at this point. You got to try something in that 5 slot. You know, Sechrist is pitching good. Peterson's a boss at 14-1. Mitchell's not doing too bad at 4-5. Like, what would be the harm in letting this guy go, right? He's a 22-year-old, 6'2", only 3 pitches to work with, not a super high velo guy, hitting 89 in his 2-seam. Probably not going to work out. But I think if he's crafty and he works his defense, I think it's going to work out just fine for him. It's better than Monty Buck, I think, at this point. You know, Buck, he's not right in the head. He's got to work on some things. And I think they'll be all right if they manage this correctly. So guys, that is it for Trade Day recap. We're going to get into some gameplay videos back here again on Wednesday. And I'm probably only going to be sticking with the better teams at this point, unless, of course, like this matchup here, San Antonio's fighting for playoff positioning. New York's just trying to keep up with Washington at this stage in the AL East. Probably will show this series here. I could show New York and Boston or New York and Carolina. So there's a lot of options here for New York. Definitely want to see how Cameron Moyer's doing. I think that's probably going to be kind of the aura around our videos in the next one, is kind of seeing all the players that were just acquired, that were just moved on in trades, and seeing how they look in their new digs, and seeing how they're helping their teams as well. A lot of prospect watch as well. Some guys that were just called up from the minors. So it's going to be kind of a big episode. We're going to have a lot of games to watch out for here. But of course, we've got an entire month of September with September call-ups here too. Probably this September video will probably be a lot more centered on the prospects. You know, and quite honestly, I don't really know how I'm going to work that out, because this is going to be in the midst of playoff chase time, because you only have one game in October for some teams. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of the matchups and the storylines that do pop up. Like, does New York kind of fall off a little bit? They're playing some not so easy teams. Like Pittsburgh, probably their only easy team on this schedule here for August. Like San Antonio, again, is fighting for playoffs. Chicago's fighting for the playoffs. Miami's, I mean, they're kind of out of it at this point, but, you know, don't count them out from playing a good game, right? They are currently 7 games back in the East and 6 games back from the wild card. Yeah, some good games all the way around across the GGBL, so could be some upsets here as well. So guys, that's it for the video. Leave a like if you like this thing, and hopefully the video was fun. That was for me, putting this together. I like talking players. I like talking stats. I like talking call-ups and projections, some predictions as well. But yeah, that's it for the video, guys. Leave a like if you like this thing. I'll see you back here on Wednesday for more gameplay and a playoff push in the next couple weeks. So guys, that's it. See you in the next one. As always, thanks for watching, and peace.